It's like literally smearing someone in jam and putting them in the forest. That's what this production did to me.
Can you talk about what was your first introduction to the character? How did you first meet Brett Sonja?
Okay, so I remember first reading the script. That was my introduction to my character personally, Annisa. She came earlier. Gail Simone wrote her in the earlier comics, but that was my first introduction of her, and I just love the dynamic between her and Red Sonja, and her and Draygan, and yeah, that really drew my attention, and the storyline I just thought was incredible. So that was my first impression of it.
Yeah, same for me. I read the script and I really resonated with the fact that she was tough, fierce, raw, but also had a big heart. Yeah, that's what I really just resonated with.
My first day of filming as the Right Honourable Magnificent Emperor Draygan was in fact, it was the last scene, It was his last scene chronologically in the story, and that was my first intro to Red Sonja and all of her ferocious glory, because you were all covered in wounds and dirt, and it was like you just come out of a war zone. And that could have been thrown in at the deep end, because I was also covered in lots of blood, and there was ants and bees and stuff coming around trying to eat the syrupy, sugary blood off me. So I was there trying to act and remember my lines and not get stung by bees and wasps and stuff in the face. And so that was a pretty heavy day one, but it's no point in beating about the bush. You just got to get on with it, But it was one of the most intense days of filming I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
Really, truly.
Did any bee get particularly close to stinging you that day?
Oh yeah,
all
constantly,
of them?
yeah, constantly. I'm amazed they didn't show up in the film, actually. It's like literally smearing someone in jam and putting them in the forest. That's what this production did to me.
Yeah.
First day.
Yeah, and Martyn, what about you? Also, what was your first day like?
Yeah, my first day was probably quite similar, in all honesty, when I realised how long the makeup preparation would take, and 5-6 hours later, I come out of costume looking just like Robert. It was incredible to have twins on set, but it was it was hard. It was the costume was incredibly intricate, and the application was incredible. But it was one of those I like to say pregnancy moments where you forget how painful the actual the journey was, but the outcome was incredible, and to see the costume in its full glory was awesome as well. So the guys did incredible with that, and to bring that character to life was great fun.
And then Luke, coming to you, as the franchise proprietor, I'm curious for you, in what ways do you hope this film will breathe new life into the character?
Well, any really compelling character in the comic book world, every generation needs to have an opportunity to make it their own. Superman just came out as a movie. It's a 90-year-old character, and my 5-year-old kid was bouncing off the seat when he went to see it. And it's because the characters have an essence to them, the sort of fiery, free spirit, and the sort of unafraid of life and death. I mean, that's always been part of the character. But each generation sort of looks at the character through a new prism and interprets it in their own way, right? So when I took over the company right when the Dynamite comics started coming out, and that was in 2005, and we made changes while keeping the core integrity of the character in place with Gail and things like that. And now there's an opportunity to sort of put a new lens on the character, and really the trick of it is to just hold on to the essence of the character that makes it compelling, right? Sonja just sort of is. And so long as the creators understand that, then you give them room to be creative and to make it their own, let them take some creative ownership over it, and create something for the next generation, which is something I think this film does. MJ and the cast really elevated it.
I think, you know, it's very easy for people who maybe aren't familiar with the character to kind of see her in like this chainmail like bikini, and I don't know, just see like the surface of the character. But actually, and I'm sure Matilda would agree, like she is so like raw and real and gritty, and like she's not afraid. You know, she's fearless, and she's incredibly complex as a character, and a warrior. So I think people shouldn't underestimate her.
And Matilda, I did see, you know, in an interview you had talked about how the original comics were written in more of a heavy focus through the male gaze. Can you talk about how, you know, this film changes that?
Yeah, I think like it was kind of like misinterpreted what I said a bit, but what I meant is that she's not objectified. Like she's not like just exactly what Wallis said. She's not just, you know, in a chainmail bikini, and you know, this version of the film I think is the evolvement of the character, and she owns it. You know, like it's. I don't want to spoil it too much, but the chainmail bikini is used in a different way, and it's empowering. It was very liberating to play someone who doesn't ask permission to take up space. And she's so like raw again and fierce, and you know, it was just amazing, and I'm super honored to be able to play her.
Finally, I do want to ask for Robert, you know, you have a lot of experience playing someone based on comic books, and can you talk about what lessons you took from, you know, playing Klaus in the Umbrella Academy to this character?
Well, I suppose in both instances, it's the same process in that we'd work with the director, you know, our pilot on Umbrella or on Red Sonja, and try to find the reality, you know, try to bring... Because I think when you make a live action TV series or a film, you have to bring it into the real world to some degree, you know. And then it's a creative choice about how much heightened comic bookness you bring into. But both things, when they were adapted, I think, did a really good job of fleshing out, you know, the characters and making them into real, you know, real breathing human beings, you know, because the comic book world is, you know, it's incredibly creative and interesting, and anything can happen, you know. But I get my kick when you take those things and you try to actually live with them on a practical day-to-day, you know, and find, you know, find the relatability in it, you know, to the people who are watching, you know, people whose lives are quote unquote normal, not comic book, you know. And it's that sort of it's that sweet spot of taking all the brilliant comic book elements and kind of earthing them, you know. That's the stuff I really like. And I must say, honourable mention to MJ Bassett, because she's our director, and it's sad that she can't be here today because she lived in America for nearly 10 years and was working outside of the country, and then was advised by her legal team that she couldn't come back because she's a trans person, and she was scared she was going to end up in some dreadful holding facility in Central America, which has been happening with a lot of people at the border of this country. And that's the reason she's not here today. She's dying to be here today. She'd love to be here today. She's with us in spirit. So I just wanted to make mention of her and say that, you know, the movie she made is just, it's powerful and emotional and dirty and gritty, and, you know, it's kind of a classic good versus evil. It's vengeful, you know, it's filthy. It doesn't shy away from Red Sonja being this like quite savage, quite brutal character, you know. And I think actually that's part of, I agree with what you were saying about evolving it from comic book, you know, it looks kind of pornographic, you know, and that's the sort of tradition of it, but actually making her sort of, you know, typically unattractive in that way, you know, that she's fierce and she's angry, and so MJ, I think, brought a lot of that viscera, you know, because she adapted the script.